Alright, let's continue on with the silhouetting here. Let's go to move and let's get, I want to go absolutely crazy here with some shapes. Let's see what we can come up with. That's fun. I'm still in move. And I'm just trying to find a cool silhouette here. Let's turn this resolution down to 64 and let's redynamesh that just to make this easier to move around. We could even go to 32 actually with a simple shape. Yeah, it just moves a little faster for me. You know what, I'm really liking that idea. Let's pull its head out here a little bit, move it forward. That sternal arch. Ooh, there's something going on there I didn't expect. Yeah, cool. Alright, so yeah, some strange things are happening here, kind of like where this is leading. It's pretty typical, that actually cresting it that way. Let's just see what happens if we just eliminate it. You know what, I'm just going to do this for the time being. I have an idea is forming as I work here. So I'm going to insert a sphere. So let's go to Subtool and append a polysphere, and then let's go to that sphere and let's move it around as well. Of course, why would that? I guess what I should do, before I do that, I'm going to turn X on. Let's just undo that. Turn symmetry on, and then let's move it. Yes. I'm recording my undo history as well, so I can, maybe later we'll do something with it as we work. So, I mean, with this system, you know, it's very cool. If you want to follow along, I think that's a great idea. See what you find, or see what you can get from this that you can put directly into your work. See, that's starting to look a little bit like our sketch from silhouette, or from the Photoshop session. I don't mind that. Actually, we can just leave that for a little bit. How does that work? It's fun to just switch over to the different subtool. Presents a very interesting form. And it really is just playing around here until we find something that we like. and then making a decision that that's it, that's what we like, let's move on. Again, when the symmetry gets a little iffy, just go to modify topology and mirror and weld. Clean that up. I like that shape actually. I mean, it's fun to see what comes out of this. And again, these are all explorations. There's no, I mean, if this isn't working for you, or if it's a shape that, you feel like you're overworking, get rid of it. Start again. There's nothing wrong with saying that's not working. And if I have to fiddle with this much longer, that's probably where I'm going to go. I mean, there's something compelling about this profile. I'm just want to reconcile some of this here. mind you, the goal is to, like for me anyway, is to get to a point where I can take any silhouette, no matter how strange or poor, find something in it and move forward. And that would be my goal. Didn't matter what shape you gave me, I just want to be able to find something in there that I can begin to work with. Proportions are a little nicer. This could be quite an interesting character. Strange proportions here. Actually, you know what? I have an idea. Let me just increase the size of these. Normally that wouldn't work, that big clumpy foot, unless this area too were appropriately increased in size to carry that weight. But I have something in mind for that. Okay, there's something very interesting about that shape. I think we're going to leave that one. So these three pieces are making up that form. So let's merge these down. Go to merge, merge down, select OK, merge down, select OK, and let's dynamesh that together and see what we get. There's something there. There's something very interesting about that silhouette that I like. That's the front, and then you have the back. Yeah, I can see myself. I can see something in there. That's kind of neat. Let's just go. Just want to go up to this head form here and just let's move some things out. Let's create some little bit of interest here. Pardon me. Let's. Round 3, kind of like that. Let's bring that out. Now I can't see the forms here. I'm just tweaking what I believe are the forms, and that's kind of I think the cool thing for me is that I'm working what I can see, but there are going to be surprises that you know, things I didn't anticipate, or areas of the mesh that I grabbed that, you know, I wouldn't have normally grabbed to make some changes. I'm just curious to see how these things turn out. So let me dynamesh that one more time. We'll continue on here. See how that profile, I kind of like that. Let's push this out here. I'm going to grab the inflate again. That. Something very interesting going on in here. I've got two forms there, what it looks like appears to be two forms. Let's mimic that there. Is that better? Not sure. Let's undo that last change. like that one. Alright, let's call that one done. It's nifty. Something cool about that. Took a while to get there, but I think it'll be worth it. Curious to see what happens with that. Yeah, see, there's something very compelling about that. Alright, we'll let that be for now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and a really crazy number 5. I mean, you can work your way up to 10 as I suggested before, but let's just see what I get if I start mixing these together. The scale is a bit off, so we're not getting that. Let's make sure all of these are there. That's a Z-sphere. I'm just going to delete this one. So I have 5 shapes. You're going to work up 10 or more. I am going to, just so I can move forward here, I'm going to just say that's enough for me for now. I'm going to try something that I'd like you to try. I'm going to duplicate this and go down to close geometry. Let's go to deformations and let's unify that. And let's go to the next one and unify that. And the next one and unify that. And the next one and unify. The next one, unify, next one, and unify that. So all of them essentially are there. Let's press F on the keypad, and you can see the kind of sort of mangled mess that we get as they overlap each other. But let's just play around a little bit with the silhouette and see. I mean, that's going nutty. That's interesting. There's some interesting stuff going on there, and you know, you can exponentially increase the amount of the silhouette by simply mixing a couple together. See what these things look like. That's an interesting one. That's kind of cool too. I actually kind of like that. Let's go to this one. Let's turn on a few others and see what we get. Odd. Very odd. Okay. So let's just select one, have it visible on the canvas for now. Let's save the silhouette project. So go to File, Save As. LiveSil1 was our project we saved, and it's in our Z Projects folder on in our project folder we created on the desktop. And just press yes, we'll save that. Okay, so now this is saved. What I also want to do is save this tool. So let's just save the tool as Silhouette and press save. Actually, let's put that in the Z Tools folder. Press save. Okay, so now we have this already. Let's look at what we have and see where we can take it. Let's open up our studio project, which we created earlier. Our project has already been saved. And then let's load in our Sil tool. And here we have it with all of our subtools. And let's take a look at what we have. Just turn perspective on. Now that one there is really weird. This is the last one we did. I sort of like that posture. Look at that. There's something interesting going on there, especially with the head. We played with that at the end. Let's look at the next one. Oh, that's a copy of our other one. Sorry. There's that. Oh, that's pretty interesting as well. Kind of, the head shape's a little bit normal. It's based on our profile we did during our Photoshop session. It's got sort of similar leg forms. Not sure I like that one. Let's go to our next one. Ooh, hello, mess. So there's our other one. There's some creepy stuff going on there that I kind of enjoy. Look at the arms and the way those developed, those shell sort of formations. That's pretty cool. There's something interesting there that I like. And there's some room for playing around in the head. The back's got a nice profile. That's kind of cool. Let's take a look at our next one. Didn't really go too far with this. I think the intention was to add arms at some point, or maybe we could mix that up with the previous iteration. There's definite weirdness there. And this curved tri-fill brush, really nice way to create some forms. Let's go here, turn that one off. So yeah, you can see we use the curve tri-fill to create some nice shapes and kind of played with those. There's an opportunity to create some pretty frilly forms if we wanted to go that direction. Alright, so I'm going to pick one of these to start with. I think in our notes we're having you pick two. We're going to do two projects. Two characters, probably one bust, one full-size form. But we have a lot of work to do over this 8-week period, so we'll see how that rolls out. You know what? I'm digging this last one we did. And it's not a I think a coincidence that a lot of the times it's the last ones we touch that are sort of the ones we like the most. So I think mostly because we're a little bit warmed up. Have played around, we've discovered some shapes that we like, we're kind of repeating some forms or silhouettes. We're finding things that we are kind of compelling in this. I really like this posture, this sort of arms back. So there's the strength to this one, there's a uniform thickness to things. There's something about the ball forms here that I like, and there will be a challenge to create a foot form here. Yeah, we could start developing this one. I think this will be the first one I develop. So I'm going to start a new project. Let's file and save this as, and we're going to save it on the desktop in our main projects folder under Z projects, and let's call this one Sculpt 1 for now. We can rename this after if we come up with a name for the character or what have you. All right. I'm going to select sort of a more warmer value for something more clay-like. And going to go to Subtool Master. I'm just going to fill this with both color and material. Select OK. And then let's just do a quick render and see, make sure our settings are close to where we want them to be. So I'll just let BPR render this out. Yeah, shading's still there. Still looks good overall. I am going to take these other elements that we created. Well, I really like that one. I think we'll keep it in here. And I'm going to delete these ones that I don't want right now, just to clean up some space. Oh, did I just delete all? Yeah, I did. Yeah. Projects, would you like to save changes? No. Go back to Live Cell. Or actually, we can reopen Sculpt 1. Yep. And delete all. I accidentally hit that, but let's just delete the ones we don't want. That one we want to keep. This one we will delete. And we have a duplicate here. I'm just going to delete that. So we'll keep these two. Let's turn this other one on. And the reason I'm keeping that is I'm going to just take some time to consider that possibly as our second silhouette. And look at the craziness we get when we incorporate these two forms. There's a lot of hollows. There's an opportunity for several limbs. I have no idea what that is, but there is, I mean, what do you see in the chaos here? Right? I see a mess, but I also see opportunity to really develop something interesting. So I'm going to shut this other one off for the time being. It may turn into our second offering, or I may use it to blend this out. Now the color, let's go back to that one. That's the same color. I think that's the color of my background. Is it? Let's go color, fill object. Color, fill object. Yeah. I don't know, I just like this warmer gray tone. And you know what, let's fill it with the two or material as well. Fill, color, material, select OK. I guess that should be visible. Fill, or pardon me, Subtool Master, fill, color, material, select OK. So I've got all those filled up. Let's turn that secondary one off. Again, we'll test our render settings. Should still be the same, but I always do one at the beginning just to make sure I'm happy. Yeah, okay with that. We're getting good breakup on the outside. Our blur is working. Shadows were set fairly well. I'm getting some good definition in terms of core shadowing and highlighting on this, which I'm happy with. I just want to check one thing. Wax modifier, I do have it high. I'm getting a little bit of glow there, which for me, I just want to eliminate or reduce. So let's just drop that to 15. Was it even on in my properties? Oh, it wasn't even on. There you go, it's off here, or reduced. Wax preview. Material 15. Okay, so now it's considering it, but yeah, this is what I want to see. Just monochromatic for now. All right. Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is start. I'm just going to smooth out some sections. X is on, and actually the base smooth modifier, the intensity, let's just hide that for a second. When you press shift, the Z intensity is already at 100 for standard smooth, and I should add it to my palette here, but or add the smooth strong brush to the palette, and that can be found in brushes, and just slide over to smooth, and you'll find it here. It's smooth stronger. Double tap that and select OK, so it's going to be ready when you press shift. When you press shift, now it's just moving the polys much easier. Now that also I think we want to remember this is when we Dynamesh, I'm just going to do it here. When it's set to 32, we don't have enough resolution to really capture this form. So let's reset this to 512 and do a, there we go. That's enough resolution for us to continue, and smoothing happens quickly. I don't want to kill too much of the overall form, because there's some of that that's still quite interesting, and we're going to play with what's here and try and create skeletal structures and muscle structures that fit the form and the silhouette that we've created, without falling back to some standard anatomy. I'm going to take the principles, some of the principles that we've discussed, or that we'll be looking at, and develop some forms here. Go too crazy here in terms of smoothing, but I do want to address there's something there I like. I'm not going to smooth that off too much. This is kind of cool, and there was a suggested muscle there. Let's smooth this area back, because it really does feel, you know, this feels like a suit almost. Feels like a bit of a suit. Let's go to clay. I'm just smoothing this down a little bit. This sort of shape reminds me of the nuts that we had, or that we were looking at in the context library. I kind of like it. We're able to smooth that down a little bit. We have an opportunity to look at, see, now that's very interesting. I love this posture. Cool, right? And the way that this structure works here for what I'm thinking is a shoulder. Now there's again another interesting opportunity to adjust anatomy we know to fit this form, and we're going to have to get really creative here, and this is the challenge with making original things, is making this, what we see here in silhouette, what we loved about that form, and making it work. And we first have to try to make it work. You've got to put the effort in, I think. Well, I try to put the effort in to follow through with the forms that I created for whatever reason. And I really don't, I may not understand right off the top the mechanics of making that form work, but I think that's one of the things that makes that I strive for in making my work realistic. I think these are opportunities rather than issues, and I first want to try and create a solution for it, and then if I can't, I'll go back to anatomy that I know works, and I'll change this form to fit. But try something cool first. It does feel like a regular arm. I think it's going to have some sort of shoulder, some sort of elbow, a wrist, some paddle forms here, some claw type shapes suggested by this inner hook. It has a standard human torso or something close to it. It is apparently an upright bipedal form. Does this fit my context library and the story that I developed? Well, there's enough material here that he could articulate tools, so we'll think on that. He's bipedal, as we talked about. Are these going to be able to, this ball style foot, I think there's something I can do here that will allow him to walk on the kind of terrain suggested by our context library. And when we get into the structures of the head, I think I can make this form work for me so that he's able to sort of forage and use the material suggested in the context library as food and building materials, etc. Alright, so I'm just examining this form, looking for hints to where I want to take it. Well, there's something really interesting there that I like. Although this looks like an open mouth, there's an opportunity for some really interesting structures here. And again, we don't have to stick to this exact profile as we work, but as a basis, I don't want to stray too far from it off the start. I kind of like this structure here. It's almost like a stretched rib cage. There's something interesting in this area here. Sort of like a long, attenuated rib cage. And then the extension, this sternal horn that I like. Something about that. It's kind of fun. Yeah, there's a challenge there for sure. Alright, and I'm into that. I'm into a challenge, so sometimes you just gotta say, well, you know what you gotta say, but then you have to make it happen. Let's move this out here. Now, silhouetting is just one way to start this sort of conversation or this research. Let's take RGB off. Don't need that on. Why is that still subtool fill color material? Let's just do that again. There was something that seemed too dark, and I think I may have selected my background color. It's a little warmer in contrast to the background. Just BPR that and see what we get. If that still works for me, we should be fine. To continue? Yeah, I don't mind that. Okay, so we have that putty color going. And as always, as we're working, we're just going to save as often. Sculpt 1, save, yes. Yeah, I mean, we can see sort of where this is going. There's an opportunity here to do something kind of cool. And first thing I think I'm going to do is this sort of interior form couldn't be addressed in the silhouette, so let's just pull it in. and make it more part of the back here. Bring the arms sort of where we would expect them to be. Now, I've got that shoulder there. It's a very pointy shoulder. I don't want to fiddle with that shape too much. I don't want to start sculpting it without thinking here. I just want to, follow through with one of the principles, which is the taper of the arm. We know it's going to be wider at the shoulder. We know that there's going to be some sort of large form here or bony plate so that we can attach a lot of muscle to it for strength. That scapula is going to, if there is a scapula, I may have to rethink the mechanics of this shoulder to make it work the way it is. There's something about this sort of shelf of material at the top that might lend itself to sort of an interesting muscle and bone structure. So I won't get too carried away with that area yet. Just want to think a little, and it's okay to think about this stuff. Being original is incredibly difficult. There's a lot of work out there that you are competing with for attention, and you've got to be different to sort of stand out and separate yourself from that background noise of orcs and goblins and sort of the common things that you see. And kind of redefine what it is, redefine characters for yourself. And I try and do that with what I make. I really strive to make an iconic character every time. I see that coming together. Let's go over to the inflate and just... I had an idea about this form being very round, just to mimic what's happening in the foot. I'm not sure yet how to make that work. I know that the form is interesting. I want to sort of test it out before I commit. Now, we talked earlier about this possibly being ribs, and it has that shape. It has that egg or that tapered wedge shape. I wonder, move that in, does that make that better or worse? Makes it kind of better. Mimics this angle a little. There's an array of form there going on. You get that wedge shape. And if the arm were to swing forward from this shelf, it has room to move forward, which I kind of like. Let's move this in. Now, this is not for me, it's an exploration, or I'm not trying to be fast. I work at the pace I work at, and really that's it. If I'm in a work setting, I will really try hard to move quickly, but I think the results that I get are not my best results. They're good, but with a little more thought, I think they can be a bit better. Let's move some stuff around. I just want to suggest this as a bone. What if this were a sort of revised collarbone? Play around with that. We'll start there. You know what? I have an idea with this structure that we'll play with after. We're going to go into detail with this as we work. These are the kind of things that I think about while I'm sculpting. let's throw a couple of lines in here. I just want to delineate the rib cage, or what I think is going to be the rib cage. I mean, we've talked a little bit about what we're trying to do with this sculpture in terms of the context library. I mean, we spent a lot of time photographing things, selecting elements that we like, and that suggest a direction for our characters, that have influenced it to some degree, since those images are in our minds, our silhouettes as we created them. And now we're trying to look for common forms that pick out the forms that were influenced by our context library, and now with those in mind develop the shape so that it fits the world, or fits the elements of the world that we've selected. So I kind of think this fits my guy. It's kind of an interesting form there. I wonder if I create the shoulder structure the way I'm thinking, I'm going to need some more muscle there. I'm going to need some real support up here as well. I need some kind of anchor for this muscle. Well, let's say that it actually travels here. That kind of works its way here. And it shares a it shares an appearance, the aspects of our own neck. I have to pause here for just a moment, and I will be right back. Alright, just a short break there. Yeah, and when you're getting stuck or you have questions, you've got to stop and think about some structure. Now I took a look at some shoulder reference here to see if I could make what I'm thinking of happen. And we're going to get into that in a minute or two, but I really want to try and make that work somehow, just because I think it could be pretty cool. Let's take the floor off for the time being. Now this is a very interesting form that's coming into play here. So what I'm thinking is it's going to share some aspects of structure with ours, but we're going to have a lot of extra skin here. This sort of flap. We're not going to make this so much muscle. Well, there's going to be some in there. There'll be something going on in there, but I'm going to make it this more of a fleshy flap. Let's pull it forward as well. And if this is the chest, then I'm going to want that to roll on top of it, rather than sort of be level with it. And then we're going to have a blend here. as well. Now I do like this, the aspect of this chest. Sorry, I did a move there. Clay. I want that suggested overlap. I'm just going to leave, mark the clay here. Let's see how that looks in shadow. I'll do another render. Yeah, I like that. Adds a bit of graphic quality there as well. Yeah, no, and everybody's, I mean, I'm asking it right now, and I'm just, during renders I have a second to think, and I look at those forms at the feet, and I'm wondering how this guy is going to move. How fast does he move? What are those really? Did I just make a form there that I have to revise, or do I have to add to that? And I'm gonna take my time, and we'll work our way down as we go. Alright, let's start up here at the head. Let's just select this section for now. Might need a little bit more just to, we can reconcile some of these elements as we work. Alright, let's save this project for a second. Alright, and let's start doing some moving here. Oh, that looks like teeth. I don't want that. I don't want this to look like a open mouth. And I'm happy with the width. I like the way the neck is sort of uniform. This lacks a little bit of flow. What I mean by that is it's a straight line, and there's no movement in that line. So I'm, whatever your shape is in your silhouette, look for, as we discussed, areas of rest and strength and weakness, and start to address those. I mean, this character, there's a certain posture. He's kind of straight up, his arms are back, he's kind of at the ready. There's a strength here that I like. It's broad shoulders without being muscular. There's something about that I want to bring out a little bit more. So when I start to select elements of these features, looking for, there's a lot of movement here. That straight line helps to create some interest. And we're drawing our eye into the middle, and it's getting carried over here into the head. There's nowhere for it to stop. So I think I'm going to flatten out. Let's flatten out this thing here. Can I get that to stop a little? If the form change is a little more abrupt, I think so. Yeah, I don't want it to begin to look like ears, because what I am thinking now is this is actually going to become believe it or not, I'm thinking that's going to become part of the skull. A brain case there. Bring that around just a little bit. I don't mind this section here kind of says bone to me, but I got to reconcile that with this piece. So I'm going to play with it a bit and see what I can see. I'm not sure what these are yet, but they're bothering me at the moment. Let's pull them apart. Let's change their shape a little bit. Does that help? No, I don't think so. What about that shape? We change it to something like that. Does that help? Not sure. Not sure what they are yet, and that's one of the problems. I'll have to see. I'll have to play just a bit. Let's define what this head is. Let's grab the Damien standard brush and let's just do a bit of marking on here. So I think that the face is something like that. I think there are some forms there that I want to pull out. Actually, sorry, I should reverse that. Like the pocket for the masseter. I don't know. Well, the resolution's not helping me, but all I needed is a mark there. I don't mind that. That helps a little bit to find what these shapes are. Let's do a move here. Let's see if we can. Does this help? I don't mind that. A little curl back on them. Bring it in. Does that help, or does it make it look more like a mouth? No, I don't think that far is working. That works. We'll decide as we go. I think I got to start somewhere, so we'll may as well start there. No, believe it or not, I don't think there's enough going on in the head. Let's also, I already move. Give a little radius to this because I have an idea about, I mean, thinking about the sensory package, where it's going to go, how does it see, how does it hear, how does it eat, you know, am I meeting my basics? Does it have a place for the brain, or, you know, an area for a spinal column if it has one? I think it does, and given sort of that it is bipedal and has skeletal structure, you know, it falls to reason that that's going to share some aspects of human physiology, like brainstem. You know, I'm going to make those assumptions now so I can sort of build off that as a basic construction method. Now, I don't know where that muscle is going yet, but I know that it feels like there should be something there, and we'll do a check on all of this after. We're going to make our best guesses now to develop a form, and then we're going to start getting in depth. A little more in depth with these. Yeah, I think it's a little premature to worry about what this area is, but I'll keep coming back to that. I really want to curve these. Not sure why that is yet, but I have this urge to suck them forward. Oh, I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to go. There's a form there that is interesting. I'm searching for it. I accept it. Go forward. All right. Not sure what this is yet, but I feel like there's might be something going on here. Well, when I say that is I'm trying to reconcile a thought about the shoulder, and we'll get to that. I'm just, all of these things, all of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of, asking yourself questions and considering the context library and all those things, they all happen at once, right? It's not something that you can kind of step by step, I think, break up and go, okay, well, I'm going to think about that part right now. All of those things happen at the same time. So my brain is just whirring with ideas and questions, and it's one of the reasons why I bounce around the sculpture so much, is because I'm trying to answer them as they come into my mind. And I think most designers find that that's what happens. When we say, well, you move around the sculpture and kind of bring all the form up together at once, that's one of the reasons, is you're thinking all those, you're asking all those questions and trying to find answers as you work. So you're all over the place. So don't be surprised if you're bouncing around. It's normal. It's the right, for me, it's been the right way to work, and I think you'll experience the same thing, and hopefully as you go forward you'll experience some of the same successes as well. I'm going to move this in. It just feels like it's got a taper. And I think it's also got to just come back a little bit, because I like the stretch that's happening there. And I mean, if you look at this, you got the arm coming this direction. There's a forward motion here created by this arcing line and this arcing line and this arcing line and this inside curve, right? There's a lot of strong forms here, and they're sharp enough turns that they create a directionality, and this one's kind of moving forward. So when I look at this line, it was so far forward it kind of stopped that motion. So I'm just grabbing it and pulling it back. I have no idea what that is yet in terms of any kind of muscle or any kind of structure. I'm going to solve that afterward, but what I want is that enhanced silhouette, that area of rest which turns quickly and enhances the overall form. So I've got this strange form coming together. I mean, look at how that's working, and how it enhanced this upper section already. We haven't done very much here, but just adding that demarcation line from what we believe is the head and the body, making that slight change to this neck area. I'm calling that a neck. I don't even know what that is yet, but and making a few changes. Now we've got something happening here that has enhanced what we created. So I'm going to continue on. I'm going to record the rest of this, and I want you to do the same this week. Is bring your bring your silhouette, or do your 10 silhouettes, select 2 of them, and then I'm just going to be back in a second here and we'll figure out what we're doing next here. I'm going to keep going. Save often. Yeah, and as I was saying there, save often will. There's nothing worse than having your work get trashed. All right, I'm just going to pause it here, and I'm going to be right back. Okay, so we're back here. One of the things we want to do, we don't want to get too carried away with the, developing this entire object without first referencing or going back to our context library. So I've gone back and I've started to ask myself questions that I had mentioned before, and I just want to, look at this in context to what I've written and what I'm showing in my images, and I'm trying to figure out, as you should, whether these silhouettes reflect the images I've selected and the choices I've made and the choices I've made in the library. Let's just go back to the clay brush. I'm just going to work while we speak, or while I speak. I'm feeling like I'm pretty close. I have sort of some nut forms here, which I'm going to use as the skull. There were some shell shapes that I think this is going to end up being some sort of shell type plate, this whole section. I'm making him, I've got to resolve the feet, I know that, and I've made a note to myself that this area has to be resolved. And that's really what I want you to do with your 2 selections. Before we get going too far into creating any anatomy here, we want to go through and assess how we feel this works with our context library and make subtle changes like this, little marks here, little adjustments in form, slight lines like this, smoothing out areas, and make sure that the elements that are suggested here, forms that are suggested here, the lines of strength, weakness, and rest, along with the context library, are all, like this form is being brought into line with those elements that we've spent time creating. I think I've said this before, all that work we've done, all the stuff we've mined and worked to find in our exploration and in our Photoshop sessions and stuff like that, are now coming into play, right? And you've earned every single one of those ideas. You've earned all of that experience and the questioning our approach. You've earned all those ideas and information. Now it's time to kind of spend them here and make sure that they line up with where we want to go. So like I've done, I've selected my 2 silhouettes, I've appended them, I have them here as a set of subtools, and I'm in my project that we created earlier. And now it's time to sit there and to sit here and make sure that what I'm creating is working with the context library. So I've just gone back now, looked at my images, assessed this a little bit, and I'm wondering what else I can do or change slightly, and I mean really minor adjustments to these forms to make it work with what I've already suggested. That's not to say that these things are not, that they are set completely in stone. We can adjust our context library if we run into something, just so difficult or time consuming that we've got to make other choices or make adjustments to our story to fit something we really love in the character. All that is viable. Like these things shouldn't slow us down, but we should first make an effort to use the work we've created to drive this sculpture. So for me, just as an example, I love this idea of the chest here, but if I look, there's a there's a lack of there's a lack of form in the lower section, but particularly here it just drops off, and then it drops off again. There's something needs to happen here to change the posture. So I'm just going to go back to the move brush, and when I look at the story suggested by my context library, I'm just going to call it the CL for now. Suggested by the CL, this, he's hunched over a forage all day. So I want to give him a little bit of the suggested posture of this rib cage. Just want to bring it a little bit of a curve here and bring some interest to this section. Does that work? Now you notice I'm always asking myself too, is that good or is that bad? When I make those changes to the overall form, does it help everything? And I kind of want to bring these out a little bit more. And I'm not referencing anatomy books at this point. I'm just going off of sort of an instinct for a shape here. I know that there is I have some experience with anatomy, and we all should be working those skills and training ourselves and doing whatever we can to learn more. So all of that comes into play when I'm making these choices, but I don't have it open next to me. I just want to suggest a form change here, sort of a sunken element to the chest that suggests an adjustment in posture here. So does that help or hurt me here? Maybe that got a little bit too big. Yeah, okay, that's not too bad. I'll bring these in just a little bit as well. And these are, I'm trying to be very subtle with my changes for a couple of reasons. I want to preserve the silhouette that we created for a couple of reasons. One, we worked hard to create that silhouette, to find it, but I also want to be challenged by that form. I don't want to replace what's here with a known human anatomy, because it doesn't lend itself to much originality. If I just warp this back into a human arm, well, I should have just appended or done a insert brush of a human arm and thrown it in there, and I'd be done already, right? What I want to do is find new forms, new structures, new ways of doing things that reflect some originality in our characters, and that really is our goal with this process, is to teach ourselves to design from the using several techniques, outside in and inside out, developing this stuff from very simple forms to the very complex forms, and reasoning our way through what is a very difficult process, designing something original. I kind of like what's going there. This change in position works. So let's say that if this is the rib cage, I'm starting to think about, I have an atmosphere with a little bit of bounce, or fairly normal Earth style atmosphere here. He is an air breather, so somewhere up here I've got to address the fact that he needs to actually breathe, and get him some perforations into the skull shape. But that means that he has lungs, or lung-like forms, and he has to have a way to pump air in and out, so he has a diaphragm. That means that this shape here has to be addressed as well. we need to give him some kind of manner of diaphragmatic pump. And I just want to leave a little bit of a form change here that suggests that I'm just going to bring this forward as a now so these minor changes is what all I want you to make in these silhouettes, is the suggestion of certain areas, and keep them small, keep them very minor, and try to preserve as much of that silhouette form as you can. Now I've got an issue here that I can see, is that there's no relatable form for a hip, which is suggested by the bipedal structure. So I'm going to have to add something that suggests that form, because I have in my library said he can walk, and although I've suggested a couple styles of locomotion, you know, the silhouette also influences those choices, and he has, you know, I'm going to need a fairly large hip girdle here, or some kind of structure that lets him actually move around in a similar manner that we do. Okay, so I'm just going to make a note in the clay that has to happen. So he needs to have an adjustment there for a hip. I don't want to make too many broad changes here. So this was in front of our silhouette, so we never saw that drop off. But somewhere in here, that's got to bend as almost like a knee form. And we can discuss, we'll get into the structures here based on how we want our characters to walk. And we can start playing around with some ideas. If I pull that forward, does that make more sense? No, it looks off balance now. What if it goes backwards? It's sort of working. In that case, I want to bring this a little bit forward as well. I don't want to change the ball shape, I just want to work with what's there. And I'll reconcile this somehow. But I'll do it through the context library first, and if I can't make it work from there, then I'll try something different. I know these seem like fairly minor changes, but the idea is just to go forward, answer those questions, preserve these shapes a little bit, and then we're going to start getting a little more in depth. Alright. I'm going to spend some time doing this. This is going to be a little bit, might be a little boring to watch. The changes are so minor. But it's important. It's important stuff. And what I'm asking myself here is, like, I know I haven't worked out any of the structures yet, but I want him to be balanced. You know, we've got this upper form which is coming together. We have a structure here in the arm and a suggestion of a skin flap. We haven't worked out details like hands here yet, but I know he's going to need fingers because he has to grasp tools from my library. So we clearly have some adjustments to make there. Excuse me. It's midnight here, and I worked very, very late, so I am a bit on the tired side, but I love this stuff, so it's no biggie. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves so far with this program. I like that change there, and I'm just going to pull these out a little. And now we've got that sort of crouching posture going on, which I think will work for us. Alright, let's take I have to take a little break here. I'll come back to this in a moment.